Well, welcome back to another podcast from markkroner.com. And today's discussion is going to focus on planning, organizing, and I'm going to give you a bunch of information on podcasts and places that I want to direct you that I think will help you in learning. So grab a pencil, and if anything else, again, please remember my website. It's markkroner.com, Kronner, and Mark with a K. And I'll be happy to email you the show notes if you don't want to write and just listen to me. But I'm going to be kind of rambling off a bunch of names of podcasts and things that I think really have a lot of value. So first, let me jump in. I said we're going to talk about planning, organizing, and learning. And for me, I start my work day, my first 30 minutes, planning what my major objectives are for that day. What are the most important things that I really want or need to get done? And then I kind of prioritize my tasks, what I have listed for that day. And I really do my best to stick to those things. And I still use, and even though I'm very technical, I still use a Franklin planner, as well as many different technical apps that I use on my iPhone to help me stay organized. Why do I continue to still use a Franklin planner? Because sometimes I think there's still something about writing and the way that kind of transfers into the mind, and it's easier than sometimes trying to load it into a smartphone, or if I'm not near a computer to type it in. So I still find value into handwriting things. But as far as triggering reminders, calendars, scheduling, things like that, in that case I use electronic devices. I use calendaring system like Outlook. And as far as taking notes, electronic notes, I want to go back and refer back to and organize. And I use Evernote as another great app to help you keep track of all that. And again, that's all available in the App Store. So I hope that you make a note of that, Evernote. Okay, so now I find if I don't do that, if I don't spend that first 20 or 30 minutes setting up my day, then I'll kind of thrash. I'll find myself in a react mode all day where I'm reacting to the call or the email or whatever, and I'm not necessarily going after the most important things. And that kind of leads me to another thought, is what do you do in your workday to control your reaction? Do you respond to every email as they come up, or every ding that comes across your phone as far as text messaging or an email? It's important to try to control the interruptions and disturbances. I know we think we all multitask, but really what we do is we just shift from one thing to another quickly. But studies have shown time and time again that we're really not great multitaskers like many of us may think we are. So it's very exhausting for the brain to be jumping around from one idea to another, or you're starting something, you get interrupted, and you have to come back, get your mind focused on it again. So try to take some deliberate action to control those interactions. You could be turning your phone off, putting it on airplane mode, silencing it, whatever. Do not disturb is how they refer to it on the smart app or on the phone. But these are some ideas that you might want to consider. Now, if you work in a job where you have to be on call, you have to be, like IT job or a medical emergency job, well, I understand there's exceptions, but if you can, try to control those interruptions. All right, so I briefly talked about the Franklin Planner and why I still think there's a benefit to still having a manual system as well as electronic. And I mentioned Outlook and Evernote. Again, to summarize, there's a couple tools to help you with scheduling and taking notes. We're all aware that there's also, I'm going to slide into social media, and I will go into much more detail into these different types in future podcasts. I'm sure you're aware of Facebook. Facebook can be used for both personal and for business needs, and you can set up a dedicated Facebook page. But that's a tool that I found that's useful in both personal and business environment. LinkedIn to me is more of a network for business type of a community and relationship and support system. Then of course you have Twitter, you have Pinterest, Instagram. All these different social media platforms offer things, and some of these authors or people that I'm going to expose you to in some of these podcasts specialize in some of these different social platforms, which I'll encourage you to subscribe to and listen to their shows. We're so lucky that so many people dedicate and give free content. Podcasts are free, and there's so much material up there on all subject matters, not just business. It can be religion, exercise, health, nutrition, and so on. So I really recommend or encourage you to use your smartphone, and or if you don't have that on the computer, you can subscribe to podcasts as well and listen to them. But there's a wealth of information. I'm going to direct you to some of my favorites today. Okay. There's one that's called The School of Greatness. That's by Lewis Howes. And he basically just gives you a lot of stories of people that have kind of explained their journey as to how they got to where they're at in life. And I just love stories. It holds our attention, and it can motivate us and excite us. So give that one a shot. Again, The School of Greatness by Lewis Howes. TED Talks. I love them because they're short, concise, contrite. They're usually 15 minutes or so or less. And again, great content. It's really, TED Talks have got everything. They talk about new inventions, fresh approaches to old problems, new ways to think and create. It's just really, I think it's the cream of the crop as far as the people that they allow to do TED Talks. So I really encourage you to look at that. There's even a dedicated show where it kind of consolidates it to a theme called the TED Radio Hour. That's a weekly show, and you'll find that again. There's a new podcast I just came across this year. It's called Invisibilia, and it's about invisible forces that change human behavior. And all I can say is download it, listen to it. Unbelievable stories and information about things that invisible forces that can change our behavior. You'll get it once you listen to one or two of the shows. So really give it a try. I highly encourage it. I think you'll like it. Okay, another great podcast. One of my favorites is by Chalene Johnson. And real quickly, the way I summarize her podcast, or the way she summarizes it, is motivation, leadership, life coaching. She helps you improve your energy, your balance, your organization, health, fitness, relationships, faith, and happiness. It's got everything. And her podcasts are, again, 30 minutes or less. She gets right to it. There's not a lot of wasted talk about what happened over the weekend or whatever. Sometimes so many shows, they take a little while to kind of warm up. She's really conscious of that. She gets right to the juice. She's got all show notes for all of her podcasts. There's 2 or 3 a week. She's great to listen to, and I guarantee you there's something in her show that will help make your life better in many different areas. So Chalene Johnson. All right, if you want to save money, Clark Howard, he's the guy that kind of pioneered that, and it's basically save more, spend less, and avoid ripoffs. So Clark Howard is a place you want to go for ways to save money. Everything from when's the best time to book a flight, and where do you get coupons to get discounts, and so on. So he's one that even told me about the Dollar Shaving Club. I mean, razors are real expensive, and it's been a great little tip that saved me. Literally, it's going to save me over time probably hundreds of dollars. So it's worth that in itself is worth listening to the show. All right, going back to business, some of the best business podcasts. Michael Hyatt has got a great show on intentional leadership, goals to help you live with more passion, work with greater focus, and lead with influence. Great podcast. He does it with a person on the show, Michelle Cachette, and she kind of like interviews him. They kind of talk back and forth instead of a podcast being just one person like I have here with you. It makes it more interactive, more dynamic. Great show. So give that a shot. EntreLeadership, Dave Ramsey. It's a spinoff of his content, and he's kind of the pioneer behind it. And again, just great speakers that they have it's a bi-weekly show, and a lot of great content on business. So EntreLeadership, one of the things that I found there was they brought me in touch with like 5 of the favorite books or books that they have all their employees go through. And one was called QBQ, and Question Behind the Question. And it was like a 90-page book, and just real empowering. Just you get some great tips and ways to improve your life in business. So anyway, give that a show. I hope many of you have heard of Zig Ziglar. He's since passed on a couple years ago, but his son Tom has taken over the show. They play some clips from Zig over the years, and then they kind of go on and talk about kind of what the message was, and take some feedback from questions that people have posted. It's a great show. If you want to get into finances, Motley Fool Money, they have a weekly show. They've also got some other spin-offs on investments and stuff, and they do a great job. They have roundtable panel discussions, a great job of talking about everything to do about the world and in terms of the economy and investments. Jumping back again to another business podcast, we talked about social media. Again, I talked about Facebook. The best person that I've come across to teach you everything you ever would want to know about Facebook is Amy Portersfield. And she's got a show called Facebook Marketing Made Easy. So those are some ideas. Now I know you've all heard of YouTube, but do you subscribe, or do you have an account, and do you subscribe to channels? You literally can create your own network of your favorite personalities on all different content and have these they're called channels. And it's a great way to kind of organize, or you know, I find that I go in there and there's just a whole bunch of new shows and content weekly. It's just a great way to get, I think, a better experience from YouTube by finding things and then joining or subscribing and then having these channels. So just kind of an FYI. So that's in a real quick, believe me, summary of some ideas. And again, I'll send you all my show notes if you're interested at Mark Kroner. Well, my website is markkroner.com, and on there and below this video, you'll have my email, which is mkroner@gmail.com. So I'm going to cut it at that. Thanks again for joining me, and until next time, have a great day.